3 things I hate about this, recognizing that it's a win, and then I'm going to follow it up at the very end with a massive, massive bonus of really what is the big win. And I'm not talking about $0 tax stamps. I'm talking about something that is completely more important than $0 tax stamps. What am I talking about? Guys, let's get into it. Look, let's get this part out of the way. It's a win, but man, it also feels like a huge loss because it is. We had fantastic groups leading the charge, groups like GOA, especially GOA, but other groups as well. Guys, let's just jump into the 3 things I really hate about this. Number 3, anti-gunners have talked about raising the tax stamp on NFAs for years now. It's been quiet, but it's been there. What do you think is going to get a lot louder? And when they raise it, do you think they're going to go back to $200? No. I bet they're going to go, especially for machine guns, they're going to go way higher than that. And they're going to justify it by saying, look, when this was enacted, when the National Firearms Act was enacted back in 1934, the cost of a machine gun was like $30, sometimes less, sometimes more, but $20, $30. And they put a $200 tax on a transfer. Think about that. Think about that. So now let's take that to modern day money. Take whatever gun, whatever suppressor you're looking at, put a tax on it equal to the value. So let's say you're looking at a $500 suppressor, okay? Great. So that's a $500 tax stamp, add a 0, $5,000 tax stamp. That's going to be, again, following what I've heard out there, if they get what they want, and really what they want is obviously an outright ban, but if they get what they want, then that's what they're going to be pushing for, okay? Take what you want and add a 0 to the end, because that's effectively what things were like back in 1934. And then they just kept the tax. There's exceptions to this with AOWs and so forth, but they kept the tax the same at $200. And then, of course, inflation and all that kind of stuff doing what it does. $200 today in 2025 is not what it was back in 1934. So that's something that I really, really hate, is this opens the door for, hey, we've cracked the lid. We've cracked the seal. You guys go ahead. Next time it's your turn back at the wheel and jack that up. Go back to whatever it is you want. Part of this as well is the fact that, let's face it, a lot of anti-gun people had no idea that you could get a suppressor, that you could get a short barrel rifle, you could get a short barrel shotgun, you could get an AOW, a machine gun. Now, yeah, they think like everything is a machine gun. I get it. But now that they know that this stuff is out there, they've been alerted to this, it's on a much higher level. Do you think that's going to be a good thing, or do you think that's going to be a bad thing, both in the short term as well as the midterm, long term? I don't like it. I don't like that at all. And this goes especially true, and I'm not even going to name it, but there's folks and there's states that are super anti-gun that actually have some very favorable NFA provisions. Keep in mind, NFA states sometimes order up a la carte. In other words, they may hate suppressors, but they love machine guns. That's just an example. There's other things too. We're talking about destructive devices and so on. So that's number 3 of what I hate. Number 2, this is not a rah-rah for any party. This is strictly about being pro-2A. Cannot emphasize that enough. The Republicans have been, for decades now, the party that we are stuck with as far as being pro-Second Amendment. Some of them are amazing, like Andrew Clyde and others. Others are, well, let's just say far from amazing on point. None of that changes that, if we're just being honest, the party on the other side of the aisle, the Democrats, by and large, not such a fan of the Second Amendment. I think that's fair. I don't think that's controversial. All right. I mean, maybe someone's going to light up my inbox, but by and large, I think that's a really fair statement. I hope someday that will change, but that day is definitely not today. And I don't think it's the next election cycle. I think it's going to take some sort of seismic shift going down the line. We'll see where that all goes. Where am I going with number 2, though? Where I'm going with number 2 is that from a Second Amendment perspective, and an only Second Amendment perspective, Republicans, however weak of a guard they might be, on the tip of the spear, the flank, the rear guard, whatever it is of the Second Amendment, man, they've all we've got. And especially when we're talking about a Republican sitting in a White House, if you want pro-gun judges, you want, for the time being, a Republican in the White House. Because keep in mind, these federal judgeships, These are lifetime appointments, not only at the Supreme Court, but we're talking the federal circuit courts of appeal, as well as the federal trial court. That's the federal district court. This stuff matters. It absolutely matters. Where am I going with this again? I'm going to the fact that, look, sportsmen, gun people, 2A crowd, as well as some other unconventional voters, because sportsmen generally sit out most elections. In fact, sit out elections in record numbers, not only in 2026, but 2028 and beyond. Why? Because the Republicans, right now, nominally the party of pro-2A, squandered a massive opportunity to score a touchdown. And instead, they pulled up and kicked the field goal. Look, it's points on the board, and I'm not trying to forget that fact, but being patted on the head and being told you should be thankful for this, when we're at the 1 yard line with plenty of time, and we got Marshawn Lynch, we've got Jerome Bettis, we've got pick your running back in the backfield, and we're like, let's kick the field goal. Right. Voters are going to see that. And if you think that the same coalition is going to come out, the same pro-2A coalition is going to come out in 2026 and beyond, because we should be happy with crumbs, I think folks are going to struggle with that when it's time to head to the polls in 2026 and beyond. And what will the result of that be? Well, it's not going to be pro-Second Amendment. If the Republicans get wiped out, I don't know what to tell you, man. It's not going to be good for the 2A, both in the present and midterm, with executive orders, with legislation coming out of Congress, but as well as the long term, the long game, which is really the game I'm most focused on always, which comes back to judges. The number one thing I hate about this, we had a golden opportunity to get all this stuff delisted and out of the National Firearms Act. That's amazing by itself, but why is that so incredible? Well, let's face it, tax stamp going to $0. That's great. That's fine. That's something. But compared to what we almost had, it's borderline nothing. How many people do you know are going to go out, they're going to get an NFA trust, they're going to do whatever it is that they're going to do to navigate Form 1s, Form 4s, all that stuff, now that it's $0 to go out and get a tax stamp for a suppressor, for an SBR, for an SBS? Yeah, I'm sure it will go up. Don't get me wrong. It will go up. But compared to what we could have had, it's probably going to be nothing. Why is that so important? It's so important because common use. If we had a tidal wave surge of people getting suppressors, SBRs, SBSs, you name it, because it was all delisted and now you can purchase it like an ordinary firearm at a gun store, good luck trying to regulate that, trying to tax that, trying to destroy that, confiscate it, seize it, and take it away someday, which we all know that someday is someday. That's a when, not an if, because it will be protected under Heller by the Supreme Court as common use. Why? Because millions upon millions upon millions could be sold. I don't know how many are going to be sold now, but I guarantee you the number will be less. A lot less. Now, at the end of the day, the question is, will it still be enough to matter? Are we still going to be able to generate enough sales going to $0 that it will matter? We will find out. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. I can hear it. Yeah, I'm not blind to this stuff. But Tom, $0 tax, we've set up an amazing legal attack. I agree with you. That is a good legal attack. That's fine. But it's going to take an amazing group like GOA, like National Association for Gun Rights, like pick one, a crap load of money and years of time in order to get that to the Supreme Court across the finish line if we win. And what will likely, not speaking legally, but speaking practically, what will likely happen in the meantime? Potential Republican election wipeout, 2028, White House changes, what happens? Do you really think that $0 tax is going to stay in place? No, of course not. That thing, as I already mentioned, that's going up. $200 might be rookie numbers compared to where we're going. That eliminates the legal argument. Gone. So as a practical matter, that legal argument is built on a house of quicksand. That is not where I want to be. I think it's a great attack. Don't get me wrong. If we had a pro-gun party, pick a party, I don't care, but let's just say we had a pro-gun party that was in the White House, that held Congress for decades. Let's go to that timeline for a moment. And let's also then go to the sub-timeline where they actually don't fix the legislation in the bill on this, all right? So, pro-gun, but just like teaser pro-gun. Fine, we should win when that gets to the Supreme Court. But as a practical matter, we do not live in that timeline. You are here now. This is not the best place to be. Could be worse, but it's not the best place to be. And as a practical matter, that legal argument, I don't see it winning the war in the long run. Here's the bonus. Here's the one thing that I love. The politicians, the ruling class, the elite, the folks in DC heard your voice. Folks, we have officially mobilized and weaponized social media platforms. I don't care what you're seeing this on. I don't care where you spend your time. But folks, to my knowledge, something like this has never happened before in the 2A space. We took something that was already dead, resuscitated it, brought it back to life, got the Senate to push it back in. Thank you, GOA. Thank you. And then it just fell apart at about the 1 yard line. That is what it is. That's a huge, huge win. Huge win. And that speaks volumes to the power that we can have together if we stay vigilant and focused. Because if we do that, this isn't the end. This is the beginning. Guys, be sure to share this video around. This is a big one. There's a lot of chances for people to go off the rails on this. Hopefully this one will keep you grounded on what I believe matters most and to keep us focused on what we were able to achieve. And again, all the credit in the world goes to Eric Pratt, GOA, Gun Owners of America, so forth. Join them if you haven't already. I'll try to get a link down in the description box down below. Our quote of the day comes from actually a British politician speaking around the time of the American Revolutionary War, who said this in Parliament. Quote, "Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves." That was William Pitt, 1783 in England. And boy, does that not sound familiar, right? I appreciate you sticking around. I look forward to checking out your comments in the discussion down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you enjoyed this one, please feel free to check out some of our other great content, and we'll see you in the next one.